So I'm here working on a Allis Chalmers Terra that I recently swapped Predator motor into. The old belt that was in it, couldn't take it. It was old and dried out, burnt up, pretty rough shape. The process of changing the belt out on this machine is pretty involved. I've made it to about the halfway point here, so I figured this would be a good point to stop and show what it took to get here. If you bought one of these machines and you blew a belt, it'd be a good point to give up, just because of how difficult it is to do. There's a few online forums where people detail how to do it, and it seems a lot more simpler than it actually is. So I'm just going to kind of show you a few of the steps here. So the first thing I did was I took the master links out of the chains on both sides and pulled the chains out. I also loosened the chain tensioners there on both sides just so it would kind of slack off a little bit off of those sprockets there. So once I removed those, I went down to the very bottom where the bracket bolts onto the bottom hull for the brake. Took the nuts off of that so it would move freely. Also, you got these two and the two on this side. I didn't take them off, I just cracked them free so it would pivot a lot easier. Then you gotta go to the outside. You gotta take the caps off the hull there. There's 3 bolts on each one. And then you're gonna be faced with the bearing on the inside. Now what I had to do, these collars have an Allen set screw in them. I loosened that Allen head off so the collars would slide easily. Did it on both sides. Loosen those up. And then I got a big socket on an extension right there. And you gotta smack the bearings in a ways on both sides to get them to clear the inside of the hull. Once you've done that, you can take the pins out of the steering levers. I got the pin out of this one here so I can move it up and away. And then once you've done that, you can pretty much lift the shaft up on the one side, just enough to clear it to get the belt in. Alright, so once you've lifted it up enough to slide the new belt on, do yourself a favor and put a second one in there too and just zip tie it up kind of like I have it here. So that way when you blow the next one, you don't have to go through all this BS. But with the Predator swap in here, I kind of had to guesstimate on the belt and do some other stuff, but I wasn't going to go spend $80 a piece on new belts, so why not use some ones I had. But I got everything kind of snug back in place, the bolts back in those guys. I tightened those guys back up. I did have to slide the brake pad back over just so it would brake correctly. I got the 2 nuts back on the bottom of the brake rotor bracket, I guess you want to call it. And then the 3 bolts back on the flange there, and then tightened up the Allen heads on the collars. Got the chains back on the sprockets, and then tighten my tensioners back up. Everything seems to be good. You'll probably have to roll it back and forth a little bit just to, loosen it up. Adjust your steering just so that way both your levers move about the same amount. You can loosen those 4 nuts and slide that brake pad back and forth on both sides. You can see it down there. Just to get some adjustment out of it, and then you can do the rest with your rods here. Adjust those. Mine's a little bit off, but that's okay. I'm not worried about it. This rod's been cut off before. So overall, if you're gonna do the belt on a Terra, this is kind of what you're up against. Definitely not something you want to do on the side of the trail or out in the woods.